My name is Chloé Buire. As you've understood, I'm from here. I'm based at Les Afriques dans le Monde here in Bordeaux. But I think for the conversation, it's important to recall that I did a PhD in geography. I was based in a French university, but I was doing my fieldwork in Cape Town. That's where I met Sophie. I think it was 2007, like yesterday. And for about 10 years, I was working a lot in South Africa. I worked in South African universities, in other universities, went back. And so I think two important experiences in terms of fieldwork, because that's what is kind of bugging me today. So that was the PhD period where I would spend 6 months in South Africa and then back to France and back to South Africa. And then it was for 2 years in 2014-16, I was full-time in Cape Town doing what the manager of the project called residential fieldwork. I'm not too sure what that means, but and then in parallel, I started working in Angola, in Luanda. So it's already a kind of a postdoc, but started a little bit in the midst of the PhD already. And I also got this opportunity of being full-time based in Luanda between 2019 and 2022, a nice COVID period in Luanda. And that most of the material I'm trying to explore today with you are coming from this long time field work. So field work not as something that you go out to the field and then you come back, but just as a way of settling in a country and being engaged there. And I'm trying to bring together these experiences in South Africa and Angola. I will mostly talk about Angola, but yeah, things are coming together one way or another. It's always difficult to stick to time, so I'm just gonna try to give you the main points in case I can't really finish my presentation. But maybe I'm gonna do that very initially with the title. This idea of a collective experimentation. I wasn't too sure of this term of experimentation because it gets back to this idea of rats lab, like this scientific, real science experimenting. But, and obviously it's a bit of a provocation because it's exactly what I want to disrupt. But at the same time, in this idea of hard science, there is an acknowledgement of trial and error. And I think what I'm sharing here is mostly trials, and the errors are just in there. I can't separate them from the trials. And it's by no means a set of guidelines, how you should do things, how people should do things, how the university should do anything. I'm not here to really just, even I'm not even sure I can defend it for myself. I'm just trying to find my way in that. But there was also this, because it's in English, so is it experiment or experimentations? I checked my dictionary. And there was this nice sentence that says, children learn by experimentation. So that's why I kept experimentation. And so it's fieldwork as learning, as about a provocation rather than a building knowledge or contributing to something that then is academic knowledge. It's really a learning process. And that's why I'm trying to open up today. But then there's obviously this adjective of collective, and it could be participatory, it could be I don't know, collaborative. We could find other words. And as you've understood already, I'm not really about defending words or labels. But the best way I found to what do I mean by collective is this picture. Because as you can see, I didn't take this picture. Nello took the picture. And that's exactly this kind of moments that for me are inspiring. Is I don't own fieldwork. It's not my fieldwork. It's really something we do together. And there was a lot of selfies in the fieldwork I've done. And it's also already an introduction to this idea of audiovisual tools that I'm using when I'm working on the field. And I think that's really maybe even the one idea that I want to share with you today is that I really believe that doing fieldwork, doing research is at the end more about letting go of whatever knowledge, whatever process I have in mind, imagined, tried, than closing it and sharing results. So I thought I needed maybe to locate myself in terms of disciplines and field. I said I'm a geographer. What does it mean? What does it mean between l'Université Bordeaux-Montaigne and Sciences Po Bordeaux? What does it mean between South Africa, EGS, the Department of Geography, or city planning? I mean, I'm really so bad with words. I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't be here, but so I wanted to trace this connection with Sophie's here, and you listen to her later. So it's in this very nice book, and I will circulate it because it's what Denis said this morning. Strange format. It's a strange format book. I love strange formats. And what I found interesting is trying to find words to define what I'm trying to do. Is that it's not, the framing is not in terms of coloniality or decoloniality. It's using this lens of Southern theory, but Southern theory infused with the debates about the decolonial. It just maybe the angle and the vocabulary, and also there is a periodization of when different vocabulary arrived in those debates. So I think for us in South Africa, the Southern theory was maybe more kind of a click or something we could hook on to think through. So I like this idea of entering the debate through a range of common and interesting urban practices performed by individuals, organizations, and social movements. But urban practices is also kind of an empty word. What is an urban practice? So we all, as a geographer, we would associate classical geographical objects, walking, transportation, housing, kind of hard, that you can physically trace. And I like the way that Sophie and Laura kind of diverted from that, talking about protesting, waiting, and as waiting seems to be the opposite of protesting, but actually they're just kind of two sides on the same coin. Occupying, participating, and imagining. And I feel at home when I read that, because as a geographer, when I work on political imagination, I feel I'm not doing my job. It's not my job as a geographer to talk about imagination. And thankfully, there are some geographers that saying, yes, it's okay, you can do that. So that was just to locate myself. So how? What kind of practices concretely? So I'm gonna try. Hopefully it works. I want to show you a video. So this is kind of very literal way of talking of what do we do with these common urban practices. So this is a kind of street library. It's a political collective called Projeto Agir in the periphery of Luanda, in the northern periphery of Luanda, a neighborhood or municipio called Kakwak. And they're setting up this library to call people, to gather people, and then there will be an hour of talk about the need to organize local elections. So both in theory, like kind of political science, and in practice, trying to, what they call it, educação política popular, so popular political education. And so there is really this engagement. Is it occupying? Is it waiting? It's definitely imagining something, opening up the imagination. And that's a very classical way of being there, observing this participant observation or observing participation, but in that case with a camera. So obviously it's not the first time I know them, but it was the first time I actually took the camera to attend the event. It was a public event, and with the intention of documenting what was happening there. I could talk a lot. I'm going to stop that. There's a whole literature in visual anthropology. It's definitely not something new to attend public events and film them and create meaning, but it's already asking crucial questions that are connected to the theoretical epistemological debate about the decolonial, about framing, about the gaze, about editing. What do we edit in? What do we edit out when we build this kind of ethnographic videos or snippets? And there is also already this kind of retroactive loops I use to show them what I would see when I attended those events. And for example, just the stone to nail to put the nail in the wall, they all laughed when they saw that, because they were like, that's not what we do, because they see the public face of the event, and me recording the non-public, this practice revealed something to them that they just never thought someone could be interested in the way they did organize. They just thought of what they were actually sharing in this discussion. And as you can see, it's a very short, I know you can't see it, I can see it here, but it's like a 3-minute video, and 2 minutes is about setting up this library, and only the very end of the video is about the actual talk. And for them, it was the opposite of how they frame their own action. So that's where the gaze is being shared and discussed, and something happens about who owns this practice, who defines where the practice starts. Donna Haraway and her metaphor of the cyborg about feminist epistemologies. And she has this sentence that the whole point is to join with the and I think that's really something that characterizes well what I'm doing when I'm with a camera there. I join with them, we see together, but I don't pretend to be them. It's not their gaze, it's mine on them, and it's being discussed and negotiated. So obviously, from that kind of level very classical and zero of visual ethnographic engagement, I'm trying to experiment other stuff. So this is another example. E o medo da asfixia me esfolhe, vende como gajo guia, a dicotomia do controle, em pleno dilúvio, a deriva na caravela, o destino dúbio se revela, para a tela como um homem negro, com uma herança que para a vela e para a tela tenho que matar o quem separa a tela. Tiro, mato, e ao ver o rosto nem posso fugir do espaço, sou eu, em plena expressão do yin-yang. MCs querem pegar o microfone. Tem mais temas. MCs do caralho. MCs, não querem dar anedotas. Cuspo por cima do puto que mendiga na esquina e chupa benzina, papita para as vítimas, a grande princesa, olha a polícia saminga, como um indivíduo animal, eu sei que então, eu fizeram igual, eu fui sempre aqui, chega marçal, sapato furado, limpo, conjuntural, mas subi na vida, só ministra social, e não fiz nada de mal, não me deixem em paz, eu sou uma primeira. A liberdade de expressão, sem ninguém nos reprimir, estamos aqui a dizer a expressão. Nunca vem falar mal. Está de efeito, senador. Estou na casa, pedras que me deram, nem sequer eu tenho que saber a minha vida. So if you understand what's happening is they're having this concert and they're calling people in. It's an open mic session. And this man, the man in red, take the mic and start rapping. Everybody's quite surprised because they didn't expect this man to be such a good rapper. It's very fluid. He's on the flow, he's on the beat. And so I was attending this event. I was with my family somewhere. I wasn't very clear in my role. Was I a researcher? Was I part of the public? And these images, I was not the only one filming. So it's slightly different from what I showed earlier, because I do not own this dispositive. I didn't create this situation. The whole point is to be public, is to be exposed, and the university is one of the possible publics, but it doesn't need the university to exist. And I don't need to explain, because they are talking. I mean, if we listen to what they say, they are doing this intervention work, this putting words. Some of them are professional rappers and activists. The one with the pink shirt was singing just now. He doesn't have a pink shirt on that. He's a very famous political activist. He's Loati Bélan, for those who know a little bit of Angolan politics. And some are just anonymous members of the public. And I'm here and I'm filming amongst other people filming, and then I'm trying to do something with it. And I didn't even edit the movie on my own, because I was doing many projects. And one of the young guys was working on another project and invited him to try work on the editing program with those footage. So there is this sense of sharing the scene and not owning it, not being the center of winning it without us. Recently, I digged into this literature about recherche embarquée ou sociologie embarquée. The translation in English to embark research is not exactly the same. Once again, that's usual. Embedded research, yes. I like also the it's like you I just like the many etymologies that are coming together. So yes, you're embedded in something that does exist, but there is also, with embarqué in French, there is this feeling that you don't own your destiny, you're not driving it. Why embedded, you're just in it. There is less movement, I find, in the words. So I'm saying I don't like words. I do like words. I just don't like to decide on which one is the best one. So yes, there is embedded research, and I'm still working on this literature. Most of it is in health science, actually, so it's something else. But I like what Pierre Bouvier says here, that people are not fooled by the situation. C'est précisément, ils voyaient bien que je n'étais pas comme eux, et inversement, et c'est précisément ce qui les a intéressés, ma différence. Cette différence était plus acceptée que si j'avais essayé de reproduire leur doxa ou leur propre logique d'interprétation. Il y avait une certaine réciprocité, mais je n'allais pas non plus imaginer qu'ils attendaient beaucoup de moi. So, I find this important, maybe not new, maybe not revolutionary, but to remind that everything is not about me being there and happening. Things are happening. I'm part of it. I can engage. I can not engage. I can be asked not to engage. I can force myself to engage. And all this configuration is happening in the same space. There is no need to decide first, oh, I will be there. I will be part of this debate, not this one. I many times don't really know. I'm just trying to be there in a way that is relevant to me, and then hopefully relevant to other people. And it carries on the long term. So the Vozietu, the Gula session, the rap session we just saw, so as I told you, I was interested. I went there, I filmed, I liked it. I went back, I followed other sessions that they had in other places. Some of the people I worked with who had the cameras, they went and filmed other sessions that I wasn't there. And at the end, well, not the end, but there was a call for Anthropology Journal. That was about kinetic connections in the urban in Southern Africa. And I was like, yeah, this is something Vozietu connects with. I could feel there was a connection, but it was very theoretical, very academic. So I wrote a paper, including those videos. But then the journal was like, but did those people sign consent forms? I was like, no, you can't just arrive there and make people sign consent forms. Otherwise, it becomes my dispositive, and it's exactly what I don't want to happen. So I had to find a way, and the best way was was actually simple. It took me some time. I just called everyone. It's like, hey, are you fine? Do you like this? And they started contributing to the paper, and I sent them the paper. I sent them a draft, and they sent me other references they wanted to see included. So the fieldwork becomes writing, and I can't really separate those phases. And I'm talking about this because obviously connects with what's coming next, and I'm already at 20 minutes, so I'm gonna have to stop. But just to finish the loop, the third way I find of engaging is not filming anymore, and co-writing, co-imagining something that could be a movie, and then sharing the equipment, and the people who take, just like Nelo, just take selfies, film other stuff. So I want to show you, so that's a document you can find online, reference to Kakwaku Stories. It's the same collective that Projet Agir that did the street library earlier. And this is just an extra in the middle of the movie. I didn't want to show the trailer.
Nós temos a oportunidade, temos a soberana oportunidade de, enquanto cidadãos, o direito de participarmos de forma livre e independente, se estarmos atrelados a partido político para que efetivamente tenhamos, então, um desenvolvimento local que se espera, a nível do nosso município.
Estamos aqui, ou estou aqui para falar sobre o nosso bairro, que antigamente era um bairro bonito e maravilhoso. Depois de alguns anos, o Estado angolano meteu a IPAU, que está aí a fornecer água para o bairro Tinguita e Kakwaku todo. A IPAU veio para nos ajudar e veio para estragar algumas coisas que têm a ver com o bairro. Em primeiro lugar, nós estamos a ver aqui, em frente de nós tem a VAT.
Sorry. Hey.
Nós temos a oportunidade, temos a soberania.
Sorry. Okay, it's not working. Well, I need to finish anyway. So sorry. So I didn't film any of those footage. I didn't even meet the people who are there. The one from Projet Agir who is defining the project, yes. But what I find interesting with this way of building fieldwork and materials and results of writing together is this idea that I don't own it, but I also do. And those can be together. It can be both my research, and I'm using it here with you in this very formal and academic space. And the film is also shown, it's been in a festival in Luanda, and with 7 co-authors. Some of them now are at university, and they showed it in their university. And so there is this kind of continuous way of building new senses. I don't know, in all dimensions. It gives space to express what imagining means, what waiting means, and without trying to put it in boxes that then we can just box in a library somewhere and it's between C and D and that's it. So this is something I'm still working on. The last, and I'm not gonna develop that. So that's a little bit images of how we built it. So that's how we sit when we try to write a movie in Kakwaku, and taking selfies. Those are shooting moments where I wasn't present. And then there is the whole work of going through the footage, transcribing the interviews, and they do it. So of course I help them because they've never done that before. And then there is the whole moment of putting things back in the computer for edition. So that's where we prepare the edition. And as you can maybe guess, this is my writing. So there are moments where I re-own the power. It becomes my object again, because they don't know how to deal with the software. They never wrote like a scenario or so. And there is this back and forth. Things are written here in all kind of languages. So it is part of it. So I was the equipment is a big aspect of sharing resources and to the last I'm still working on, and today is an opportunity for me, is to try to bring together different. So instead of reading this story as a way to understand Kakwaku, is to look at Kakwaku stories and compare it or read it in parallel to other stuff I've done in South Africa with other people who I gave them the camera and they took ownership of the camera and they told this story. What if we start reading those stories together rather than confronting the story with kind of the sociological work on the field? And I really need to stop, and I apologize for being late. 25 minutes. Okay.
What new, who is comparing with active pedagogy, for example, from Célestin Freinet or Paulo Freire, which transforms the classroom in a cooperative and which create at the time there was no computers, create transmitted by the pupils, and the professor was here, okay, but he was not the master, and so on. What for me it's exactly the same thing. Like, it's very important, and it's an old debate.
So I'm not trying to do anything new. I'm just trying to do things that are relevant to me. Like novelty is not an objective in itself for me. So that's the first thing. Then there is, I'm not the professor. We're not in this kind of relationship. My relationship, my only status there is being a French CNRS being sent to Angola to work on youth citizenship. This is what I'm like, that's why I'm there. And what I'm expecting to be doing, what I'm expected to be doing is produce knowledge about youth citizenship. And in that space of youth citizenship debates, literature, academic, which is where I'm from, I don't see a lot of people doing what I do. I see a lot of people interviewing. I see a lot of people observing, examining what is the political, what is citizenship. I'm not saying it's not interesting. I'm just saying not so many people do that. Then I see a lot of people talking about, in academia, talking about Freinet and Paulo Freire. Yes, but do they do it? Like, they're talking about the importance of doing it, but do they do it? And many times it's very hard to do because we're not professors, and that's a very good connection with what Sophie was talking about later, because that's not what we are expected to be doing as academics. We have kind of normalized that being an academic, you do field work, come back, write, share in academic journals, share in conferences, and that's your job. And being like there is the word of activists. It's not what we are meant to do. So it's not, we can observe people doing it. We can be part of it sometimes, but not really, kind of sacrificing the real academic work to do that. Because many times when I show my movies, people say, that's really cool. Did you write a paper about it? Like, well, actually, yes, but don't you want to see the movie? Like, isn't that enough? Can't we start a conversation from, let's do the conversation from what I said, from what they did? So that's where I see not the novelty, because that's not really, but why I'm doing it is for this, to disrupt what we think academic work is about.
Et peut-être tu en avais parlé dans un autre, c'est d'accepter que le matériau soit pas ce que tu attendais, et notamment cette interview que tu disais où en fait ils ont une manière très formelle, avec une certaine conception de la politique. En fait, ça rentre pas dans un papier académique quand ton matériau qui te revient correspond pas à ce que tu imaginais. Et quand tu laisses aller la caméra dans ce geste de co-construction un peu radical où finalement c'est pas toi qui filmes en fait, et que en fait ça construit un cadre où tu es aussi étonné, gêné, disruptif peut-être, enfin que ce qui revient, tu acceptes que ça soit pas ce que tu attendais. Et ça, il me semble que dans l'académique, j'entends dans les pédagogies de l'opprimé, mais dans le monde académique, je vois pas beaucoup de formes et d'espaces et de formats de construction qui prennent à bras le corps ça, qui soit autre chose qu'un papier formaté, tu vois. Et bien sûr que les sujets, on en parlait hier avec Elgas et a dit au repas, bien sûr que les sujets, ça fait longtemps qu'on les a, mais les réponses, et alors après, on appelle ça collaboratif, peut-être que les mots, on n'est peut-être pas, ça n'a peut-être pas tant d'intérêt que ça, mais les sujets sont là depuis longtemps, bien sûr. Mais les formats, je trouve que c'est, effectivement, je suis d'accord avec Chloé, il n'y a peut-être pas tant de formats qui viennent nous déranger, quoi. Pardon. Posso?
En fait, j'ai avec là, hein, mais j'ai plus de temps. Je vais me permettre de parler en portugais parce que je sais que. E après, si besoin, je peux parler en français, mas eu vou fazer para não. Mas eu gostaria de voltar à questão do título da nossa journée d'études, que dialoga com esses 2 anos de seminário. Decolonial e no pratique. Então, eu tenho 2 questões para você. A primeira, você diria que o que você fez é decolonial? Entra nessa questão. Eles utilizam a palavra decolonial? Primeira questão. A segunda é uma conversa que nós tivemos com o Michel ontem, sempre acalorado. E se a gente pensar nas teorias decoloniais, principalmente a ideia de decolonialidade, decolonialização do saber, a gente não estaria num paradoxo em relação à universidade, pois que a universidade foi fundada primeiramente no princípio religioso, depois no princípio moderno, e a crítica é à modernidade. Então, não seria um paradoxo? Ou seja, e aí eu uso o exemplo do Yukui, que a gente trabalhou em Tecnodiversité, mas o último livro dele se chama Arte e Cosmotécnica. A nossa única resposta não estaria na arte, se nós queremos fazer algo de fato para uma decolonização do saber dos ancestrais. É isso.
Yeah. Okay, obrigada. I'm gonna answer in English because so the first question was, do I consider what I'm doing decolonial, and do people who are doing it with me use the term decolonial? I guess I'm using it as a point of reference, because I think nowadays, for example, in a room like here, we don't all agree exactly what Ella is saying. We don't all agree what exactly decolonial means, but we understand what struggle is behind this word. And I want I want to feel a connection with this struggle. I'm not saying I am the struggle. Oh, no, but for me, it's very important to acknowledge that there is something that is uncomfortable about how uneasy it is to define it. Exactly this paradox of is the university, can a university be decolonial? Because university is by essence based on the colonial project and the modernity project. And so this is where I use decolonial in that sense. You know, I want to just to kind of map my work there somewhere. Do the people there use decolonial? There are a lot of different people there. So some of them, and that's something that is kind of heavy on my heart, but like Project Agir, you've seen most material from Project Agir. They've left Angola. They're now in Brazil, and they're trying to get enrolled in master's programs, and so yes.
So
there or in connection with, because their friend is in Brazil, but they're still connected to what's happening. So yes, they might use it.
I'm thinking about the situation of
the world. It's not. I didn't ask them this question. We didn't, and also because we don't. That's not the kind of conversation we're having. The conversation is, oh wow, this footage is really, really, like, no, we can't use this, like, or should we show the streets in that state? No, we want to show our Buire in a better state. So we don't want to show lixo no Rio. Yes, but if we don't show how difficult the conditions are, then we can't, and then we're having these debates. For me, those are political debates, and we don't really need the word decolonial to enter the politics of it.
The question was just to dialogue with the title.
Yeah.
Here, and see if this is something that nourishes them more. Okay.
And then the second question about, so if we can't decolonize the university because the university is colonial, is the exit
it's not
in
colonial, but it's from
is
yes.
imbibé de colonialité. And then yes, arts, yes, of course, and there is something about this here, and it's, I didn't have time, but one thread that came through, especially with Projet Agir, is that on the one hand, you had this activist in fato, né? So expressing themselves very formally, because that's what politics is about. And if you want to be taken seriously, you have to mimic this way of expressing politics. And then you had the young people who worked with me, and one of them took the camera and danced. And his intervention was dance. But he also filmed himself dancing in a movie that was meant to speak about politics. So he makes this connection between art and politics and this kind of academic medium. So yes, definitely. But this is something I'm really interested in, this dialogue between art and science. I'm not too sure that my problem with that is that, you know, like there is this slash, and what does it mean? You know, arts and science, and isn't science about creativity? You know, like how do we draw the line? So is the problem, is it science? Is it the university? But yes, I totally agree with these other ways of knowing.
Adi, peut-être une autre question, et puis ensuite, on fera un débat général à la fin.
Oui,
ça te va?
Ouais. Là, je sais pas si
Adi.
Okay, I suppose it's what's interesting for you is the fact that you go there with an open mind, and it can be disruptive for you. But does it happen that you film some stuff and you show it to them, and they are like, oh, this we felt was not important, but actually it is important? I mean, does it go both ways?
Okay. I received this message yesterday, and that's exactly the answer to this question. But I can't answer this question, right? They should answer this question. So Felix wrote to me yesterday. Where is it? Because I sent him some papers. They were in English, so he had to translate them into Portuguese. So his first thing was like, oh, your writing is really cool. One day I'll be there, you know, because he's also aspiring to do research. So that's kind of the academic, you know, exercise of, wow, okay, that's academic writing. And then there is a long, and that came, the other came like an hour later. So the discussion you raise about our work is really interesting. At the beginning, I just wanted to be part of training. You know, it's one opportunity, this, you know, French girl coming to do some training, just let's get it, you know. But afterwards, I started to understand that what we had in our hands were tools that gave us the possibility to speak without shutting our voice, sem ser calado a voz. Diferente das manifestações públicas que eu participei. And that was different than what in public protests, it wasn't the same dynamic, because in public protest, you don't raise your voice. You raise the voice of the protest, but not yours. Well, that's how I understand it. And so sincerely, I know I don't want to stop this, because I think it's a form that I think I could express things. É uma forma que achei de poder exprimir cenas. Cenas. So he's not saying what he's going to express. It's like scenes. But so yes, so this is, so the disruption is not in, oh, wow, a camera, you know, like, oh, wow, the university. Well, there is some aspect of that, clearly, there are selfies and that. But there is this, oh, well, maybe I can say things in a way and I didn't know I could. Like, I could. No, yes. So for me, that's a way of answering this question. That's one person. That's Felix. And José will have other responses.
Merci beaucoup pour la conversation également. Merci Chloé.
Merci à tous pour votre patience.
Merci.